Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We are here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. This is Carrie, and I am flying solo today. This is a first for us on Parent Coaches Unleashed, as Jessica is on vacation with her family, having a fabulous time, and so the show is going to continue. And today we have two wonderful guests, Evie Merkur and Carroll. And for the first time on our podcast, we have guests that are young adults. So not parents, not educators, but young adults who have worked for the last 3 years at a summer camp as administrators. And so they are seeing firsthand what is going on with children's behavior, but specifically with parents. And we're not here to bash on the parents today. What we're here to do is talk about some helpful tips for parents so that they can set their kids up for success at camp, at school, in the future. So they have a really interesting perspective. And so we're just going to hop right in. Welcome, Evie and Jill, to the show today.
Thank you.
And what is one topic or one scenario which you could give us that seems to be a common theme that you're seeing where maybe parents are either too involved or over involved or trying to control things going on? And what are you seeing at camp as the administrators?
I think there's a lot of not my child syndrome that you hear about, where it's more if there is an issue or a situation that is brought up, the parents are immediately quick to assume that it was a different child's fault or that their kid would never do that. And one thing that I think is really important that parents need to be teaching their kids from a young age is the lesson of accountability. I think that giving them this out at such a young age, they're missing out on this important life lesson because they're not even taking accountability for their own kid. So their child is never going to grow up and be able to admit to mistakes easy or this and that. And especially in a summer camp, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for your child to not be behaving correctly at first, or if there's a slip up here and there, because maybe they've never been in a school setting. We have kids as young as 5 that are just going into kindergarten. But to immediately just assume and kind of push it off, I think is only setting your kid up for failure in the end.
I love that tip, as kids, even at a young age, are modeling what their parents do and what their parents say. So you don't have to give details, but do you guys try as a camp to handle some of the behavior issues and teach some of the lessons at camp and not get the parents involved? Or do mostly the parents get involved because that's what needs to happen?
So I feel like first, it's important to understand what exactly happened from both sides of the story, or if it was a group of people, understanding everybody's role in the situation that occurred and how each person played a different part into what happened. I think it's important to teach them, again, as Evie was saying, accountability, but it's also important to communicate to each other, to each of the kids, that kind of like why what so and so might have done would have upset another person and how that might have made another child feel. I think it's important for you as an adult to kind of, again, foster accountability and just make sure that, um, there's multiple sides to every story. And apart from that, if it is taken to a parent and they bring it up to me or Evie, I feel like I could speak for the both of us when I say that we always want to know what happened first. We want to make sure that we're in the know, and we will always let parents know. We'll always, even if it's just a minor situation, we explain every single little story to the parents because you never know what words can get mixed up. And I think it's important to just take initiative and make sure that you are letting the parents know exactly what happened if it involves their child.
Yeah.
With what Jill was saying, if something has happened at camp, there was a disagreement or a kid was doing something they weren't supposed to or this and that, and it was brought to our attention, we will tell the parents as soon as they get here before the kid has even come up, because we want to make sure, again, like Jill was saying, that nothing is getting twisted, because the worst thing that can happen and the more uncomfortable thing on our part is if a parent comes in the next day and was like, why would you let this happen? Or why would this happen when nothing was ever even brought to our attention in the first place to fix? So it's also something that we try to teach the kids, that they can speak up if someone is making them uncomfortable, or they're sad, or someone has done something to them, or someone has hurt their feelings, or this and that, to come and tell us, even if it's a minor thing, because A, we want kids to feel comfortable enough at camp. We don't want them to be uncomfortable. We don't want them to be scared to come or anything like that. And B, because we don't want to run into the situation, which has happened, where a parent comes in and they're asking us about this situation that we had no idea even happened.
So
Right.
what do you do in a situation and if a parent comes in hot and you had no idea of the situation? Would you deal with it right then and there with the parent and the child? You get the child involved and maybe the counselor,
Yeah.
or do you say we'll look into it and get back to you? Like, what's your, is it the parents always? Is it a customer service issue?
You kind of handle it as a customer service issue. We definitely try to handle it right then and there, because we
Okay.
don't want it to be a even bigger problem later.
Right.
If something is being brought to our attention, it's kind of like a surprise. We didn't know this was happening. The first thing that we do is we'd sit down with the child.
Mhm.
We'd ask them, even with if the parent's standing right there, explain to us what happened. Each child is in a group with multiple counselors in each group, and we will just say, we'll be right back. One of us will either stay up with them and the other will go ask the counselors, ask if they knew about what had happened or this and that. We'll ask the other kids if there was other kids involved, if they're there, and then we'll kind of get a full story and come back to the parents as full of a story as we can. If it's more of an incomplete thing, it definitely is more of a, we're siding with the parents because we don't have all the other information.
Right.
We tell them, we're so sorry. We had not heard about this. This was not a problem that was brought to our attention. In the future, we look at the kid. We'll be like, in the future, if anything ever happens, like, come to us. That is your next step. Like, in case, to prevent this from happening in the future. I think if it is more, though, that we have a complete story and their child was doing something in the wrong, which a lot of the times it's not, unless it's a specific instance of one kid being bullied, which is something that we do not deal with a lot at our camp, thankfully. We will go to the mom and just be like, so this is what, we spoke to the counselors, we spoke to some other kids, this is what occurred. We are so sorry that we didn't hear about this. And either sometimes the parents are receptive to that, sometimes they don't love to hear that it wasn't all their kid was completely the victim. I think it also, again, just kind of depends from situation to situation. A lot of it is definitely a customer service thing.
As it goes in parenting, right? It all comes back to communication.
Yep.
And if we can communicate effectively, get all parties involved, right? Hopefully there's a good resolution. I know sometimes at camp, sometimes in school too, you want to set your child up for success. And we think as parents, if we can control the situation, if we could pair them with their best friend or put
Yeah.
them with a counselor that we think is right for them or popular, whatever the case is, How do you guys handle that? And are you seeing a lot of that where parents want to control the outcome of what their kids are doing each day, even though they're not there? How do you handle that?
Right. So that's honestly one of the biggest problems in summer camp. Um, Everybody understands wanting to be in the same group as their best friend and whatnot. However, most of the times, our first priority, most of the time, it's difficult to make those switches because we are a camp that operates at maximum capacity. So there's not much room for switching. But aside from that, I think most of the time, yes, summer camp is a place for kids to have fun, but it's also a place for kids to make new friends and meet new people and try new things that they haven't ever tried before. And I think that another biggest problem that we not problem, but something that we've noticed
Challenge.
something that we've noticed is when we have made the decision to keep that kid in their group and unfortunately in a different group from their best friend or whoever it may be, most of the times we do see them making new friends and branching out. If you really think about it, this is the one they're at their prime age in their life where they're super like confident with themselves and they don't have any filter and they just want to have fun all the time and be with their friends and be outside. And I think parents really do underestimate what their child is capable of doing as far as making friends.
The parents underestimate their
Yes.
child's ability to make friends and to be okay in these
Yeah.
uncontrolled situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see that's one of the biggest things that we see is their child ends up thriving and doing a lot better than they thought, and then it's not an issue anymore.
I think it's also really easy for the parents to come in hot at us sometimes, where they're like, my child is of this age and they're not with all of their friends and blah, blah, blah. And then we will go and speak to the child. And if the parent's not right there in front of them, hovering over them, they tell us that they love the new people that they're with and that they've made these new friends. And again, I really think it's a big thing of underestimating their kid, because how are they ever go if you keep them in this bubble where they're always going to be with their friend, they're always go when you usually go to elementary school, middle school, high school, you can't pick who you're
Right.
in classes with. And I do understand at the same time that it is summer camp and wanting to have fun and that it's summer and not school, but it is somewhat a school environment and it's a good place to be making all these friends where you're not in a classroom setting where it kind of takes a little bit of the seriousness out of it. Like Jill was saying, the perfect place to be making these friends. I also think that parents giving their kids these crutches where they're telling them, oh, you don't have to do this, or oh, the kid will tell us, oh, my mom said or my dad said that I don't have to participate in this. It is setting them up almost in the future to not want to try these new things, to not want to do this or that. Nothing that we are doing at summer camp is putting any kid in danger. It is not putting them in any real threat. Safety is our number one priority at the end of the day over all else. So there's nothing in which a parent needs to be fearful of something happening to their kid. If it's more of just their kid saying they don't want to, so they're like, oh yeah, you don't have to. But every once in a while, a kid can have a bad day, they need a second. All of that is 100% okay. When it's a reoccurring thing, when the child is not trying new things, when the child is not making new friends because they only want to do this and be with these people, you're going to be stuck in this bubble. And this is the best age to be teaching kids to try these new things, to meet these new people. So it really only ends up hurting them.
All right. So, note to parents, do not give your children an out when I can imagine the situation on a rushful Wednesday morning. They want to get their kids out the door to go to camp, get
Yep.
all their stuff they need. They need to be at work. And the kid's like, oh, I don't want to run today, or playing tag. And so the parent just says, oh, you don't have to. Right. I don't know if the parents really mean that. Right. It just might be an easy way to like get the child in the car to get to
Yep.
camp because they have somewhere to be. And they figure when the kid gets to camp, they'll just forget about it. But so I guess parents, I'll put myself in that category, even though I don't have kids at camp right now. Just, let your kid figure it out.
Yeah. And
Encourage your child, try it. Just try it.
uh,
You might
and
like it.
a one-time, thing like, "Oh, I don't wanna do this today." That's totally understandable. When it's a reoccurring thing, that's when we see a real pattern.
Yeah.
When it's like we're doing soccer outside and some of the girls don't wanna play soccer, like, I was one of those kids. I would not wanna be outside in the 95-degree heat playing soccer with the boys. Like, that would never be my forte when it's
Yeah.
like a pattern that we see.
Or it happens on many different activities all day long.
Yes.
So that would be a sign. Maybe this is not the type of camp for this child, or maybe there's
Right.
something else going on that the parent needs to be aware of. But you're
One
right. It is a larger lesson because this applies to other things than just not wanting to participate at camp. It falls over into school and maybe work, and they're going to maybe go to college one day and want to live in a dorm, and like all these things. It's about managing discomfort, and we
Yep.
have to allow our kids at a young age to try it and manage it, because it does not get easier as we get older, and as parents we cannot continue to rescue.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
great message.
Mhm.
All right, what about the kids who are coming from multiple homes, meaning the parents are divorced or separated, or maybe they live with a grandparent, or it's not typical where they're coming from the same household every day with their things? Is there any messaging that can make it easier on these children? And what do you see?
Yeah. I think every situation is different. I think that communication is key, and you never know. We might be the ones who encourage, that communication between and act as that liaison between, both sets of parents, because we do meet with both sides of parents during drop off and pick up at the end of the day. So you never know. You might just be that extra someone who's, enforcing communication between both the kids and both sides of the parents. So I think consistency helps the kids feel more secure, unless it provides them with a less stress-free environment.
Mhm. Are they
Like,
coming unprepared for camp, or you could tell like sometimes they're getting more sleep than other? Like what do you see as the symptom that something's disorganized with the two sets of parents?
I think that one of the biggest things that I would say that we see in kids that come from multiple homes is on some days that they are with, let's say, one parent, that if they want to be with the other parent, they are more likely to act out and tell us to call that other parent because they know that that's how they can get them to come. Sometimes we will have like the most amazing kids who almost have like a flip switch on certain days where you would have no, like it would be like night and day between them
Okay.
yesterday and today. And again, I think like what Jill was saying is consistency is so important. If the kid is going into camp knowing, okay, today is this is who's dropping me off and this is who's picking me up and this is what I do today, and they're ready for that and they're preparing for that,
Mhm.
then they're less likely to be all over the place, not because they're not. I You see from the kids' perspective that they are seeing that they're not in control. So
Mhm.
they're trying to get in control as much as they can. And if that means acting out so that they can go home to the parent or the household that they want to be in at that time, or maybe they want both parents to come. So they're doing something that is totally out of character because they want both their parents there. The best thing that we see is when the kid is going into it with expectations. They know that this is what's going to happen. They know that if, let's say that they choose to act out, that this person is still going to be the one that they are with. That, but then, the next day or the next 2 days is when they'll be with that next person. So I think just having that line of communication with your kid, that they are not completely out of control, giving them a little bit of say will go a long way.
I think that
agreed.
that's a great tip too for any child, whatever household they're coming from. If you set expectations for how the day is going to go, who's dropping you off, who's picking you up, right? We all, like, if we have jobs, we want to know, and we do operate better when we have a schedule, right? We know when we go to work or go to school or camp, like, this is how the day is going to go. We have some expectation, even though things go haywire and we have to figure out how to deal with change. But some expectation and some consistency helps us all be a little bit more prepared. If we give our children no no structure, of course they're going to be all over the place,
Exactly.
Right.
right? We would too, even as adults, be all over the place if we had no schedule, no structure, no expectation. So I think that's a really great tip for obviously families who are divorced, but for everybody, having children, to school, to camp, whatever it is. So great tip.
100%.
Anything else standing out that you would want parents to know, or that would be a helpful tip of setting your children up for success for camp, school, life? Anything else from your perspective?
Honestly, kind of building off of what we were just talking about, I think communication is key. I also think that there's most definitely always room for improvement for as far as communication, because it really does help everybody and it makes everybody's lives easier. Building off of what we were talking about earlier, I think as far as talking to parents and kind of explaining any type of situation to a parent that does involve their child, I think most of the time they appreciate you going out of your way to understand what happened with their child, even if it's just a minor situation or even if it is a big situation. I think it is much appreciated when you try to understand, both sides of the story and just provide them with as much information as you can.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. This was super helpful. I hope it was fun for you because it was fun for me. These are really informative young ladies that I've had the pleasure to get to know, and I appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks.
And as always, to those out there listening, thank you so much. And we can't wait for Jessica to be back from her vacation. So stay tuned. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.